being a sitting member of Congress, being asked how I would vote on a measure, and I couldn't even answer that question. I'd turn my back on him. I can't imagine treating a member of our community in that fashion.
All right. So, first off, I'd like to remind everybody in the audience, you can clap, you can cheer, but the answers are coming from the candidates on the stage. All right, so let's maintain that. The candidates on the stage will answer the questions. If you'd like to question them, you can speak to them later. All right. Now I will ask you the question on education. All right. So question number 3. What are some proactive measures that you will introduce or support to impact the academic achievement and equal educational resources in the context of our changing dynamics and demographics in the diversity of our schools? Do you support the DREAM Act? What steps can we take to ensure that we are adhering to the process of the deferred action to eligible youth in our communities? Remember, you get a minute and a half because this was a pretty lengthy question.
Thank you for those 90 seconds for those 5 questions. Well, as a mom, first of all, my husband and I, as I said earlier, we've raised 3 sons, all the product of public education. And I've seen what good schools and what good teachers can do. We need to make sure that every child has access to good education, equally good access to education. Here's some moves I would make. Let's talk about education for a moment. First of all, no child left behind. We know that it needs reform. We know that it hasn't worked as it was intended. I think everybody, and this was a bipartisan effort, we went into that with good intentions. We need to make sure that we involve teachers in determining how quality is scored. We have to make sure that we don't encourage teaching to the test, and I think there's movements underway to make that happen. I'm in favor, I happen to be in favor of expanding Head Start. My opponent has said that needs to be on the table for the cuts. And I'm telling you, that is a program that has helped so many families, and I cannot think of a better investment than in our kids' education and in programs like that. I want to make sure that we have access to Pell Grants as opposed to my opponent, again, who supports cutting Pell Grants. I've met people in our district that the only way they've been able to go to school, the only way, is because of Pell Grants. And to think about cutting those at a time when we need to be encouraging education and learning new skills in order for the 21st century economy. We need to make sure that we invest in programs like that. And then lastly, the gridlock that we've seen in Congress has resulted in...
Oh, please stop. All right, please stop.
You bet. Thank you.
Now,
yeah, sure, I got to take care of some deceitful things here. First off, the fact of the matter is this, is the Bring American Jobs Act that my opponent, not all bills because they have a beautiful name are a good thing. What my opponent supports is a job that actually does this. It incentivizes, and I'm sure she hasn't read the bill like I have. What it does is it incentivizes American companies to, for example, go over to Honduras and go ahead and build this building for, say, $1 million, and then decide you're going to go ahead and shut it down, bring it back to America, and then my opponent wants to give you $2 million for doing that. Also, it will take fully automated companies that are offshore with no jobs whatsoever and give them $2 million to bring it back. It's not the thing that we need to do. We need to focus in on creating an environment here to keep what we have and attract folks from outside of the United States where the best workers reside. And that's right here in the Illinois 17th District.
We made it through our first 3 questions. The first question was on jobs, the second question was on the economy, and the third question was on education. Being the moderator, I think I'll use my powers to give each one of you 1 minute to say anything that you didn't feel that you had covered in those 3, so then we can get to our last 2 questions and bring it on home.
May I go first on this one?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. Congressman Schilling started out this whole conversation by talking about everything he's doing for this district, talked about giving money back. Here's what I'd like to point out. He has spent nearly $500,000 on your dollars, your money, to fund his campaign through taxpayer-funded campaign-style literature that he's charging back to the taxpayer. That is number 1 out of every member of Congress. He has spent more money with your dollars than any member of Congress. Yet he criticized his opponent 2 years ago saying he wouldn't do something like that. And here he is, just 2 years later. That's all it took, 2 years later. And he's become one of them.
1 minute goes to Mr. Schiller.
Sounds like that makes for a good commercial, but here's the facts. We spent less than 50 cents per constituent. And I'm going to tell you a true story. I had a constituent that, because of the flyers we got, her dad was in a bus accident over in Mexico. And what happened was they said that he had a concussion, he was going to be fine. Well, what they were doing is they were trying to milk the family out of thousands and thousands of dollars. The family went over there, got to see Dad, and realized how bad it was. Our office, thank God that we sent those flyers out, because our office was able to get on the phone, continue to call day after day, get that guy airlifted out of Mexico back to Texas to the United States of America. December 23rd last year, I got to go see this person. The daughter comes up with tears in her eyes and says, "Thank you for saving my dad's life." Cheri, I don't know how much dollar value you would put on the life of a United States citizen, but for me, I'm not going to do that.
Next, we'll move on. All right. Next, we'll move on to question number 4. Question number 4 has to do with immigration. All right. There was a recent Supreme Court decision that struck down most of Arizona's "Show me your papers." Can I ask the question, everyone? Thank you. All right. I'll start again. We good? We ready? All right. There was a recent Supreme Court decision that struck down most of Arizona's "Show Me Your Papers" bill, SB 1070, for unfair and discriminatory provisions. What is your opinion of this ruling? How do communities avoid hostile environments and extreme immigration practices that impact our schools, economy, and healthcare? Mr. Schiller, 1 minute.
This goes right back to the fact that both Democrats and Republicans in Washington, D.C. need to have the adults sit-down conversation of getting this fixed. Look, it's upheld by the Supreme Court. You've got people, here's one of the problems, a lot of folks that are against immigration reform, is that you got people that are out there, good people here, and then you have the bad players coming in and infiltrating these folks to where they're doing bad things, robbing them, doing whatever. This is something that we've got to get fixed, and it's going to take both parties, and it's going to be one of those deals where there's going to probably be a lot of things in there that every American out there might not like one piece of it, but it's about doing the right thing and getting immigration reform on the table as grown-ups and getting the right thing done for the folks that want to live the American dream, just like each and every one of us have had the opportunity to do.
Would you like a rebuttal, or would you like me to ask this question?
I'll get into the answer.
Okay, well, I'll ask the question one more time. We've had a recent Supreme Court decision that struck down most of Arizona's "Show Me Your Papers" unfair and discriminatory provisions. What is your opinion of this ruling? How do communities avoid hostile environments and extreme immigration practices that impact our schools, economy, and healthcare?
Well, first of all, Congressman, I don't know where you've been for the last 2 years, but to blame the current Congress when you've been a member of it, I'm not sure where that's coming from. We do have a national crisis, and I'll give my hats off to Mr. Anderson, who pointed out this can't be done on a state-by-state basis. We need this to be addressed by Congress. This actually started, if you look back to Senator McCain, before he decided to run for president, this was something that he approached in a bipartisan effort. So this has some roots in bipartisan support, but we just have not moved in the right direction, specifically under the most dysfunctional Congress in the history of the United States over the last 2 years. Here's what I favor: a fair, common sense, realistic approach to immigration reform. It would include these 3 components. We've got to make sure we have strong borders. We need to make sure that we crack down on unscrupulous businesses who actually hire people who are undocumented workers and profit as a result of that. And then lastly, I do support a path to citizenship.
Thank you. Mr. Schiller, would you like a 1 minute rebuttal?
Need I remind my opponent here is the fact that the dysfunction is actually in the U.S. Senate leadership. Over 30-some bipartisan jobs bills sitting there, no budget for over 1,000 days. It was this Congress that got the 2-year transportation bill after being on 9 extensions since 2009. We can try to point fingers, but the finger pointing needs to go over to the United States Senate, where I would say is probably going to go down in the history as the most dysfunctional Senate in the history of the United States of America. It's about doing the right thing and getting this. Look at all of us here in this room. We're struggling around our dinner tables, trying to figure out how we're going to make ends meet. But yet the United States Senate is sitting down in dysfunction, and they won't even bring a budget to the floor. They won't do it. The president's budget got 0 votes from the House and the Senate. So, you know, we can talk about dysfunction, but this House actually got some things done. And,
all right, thank you, sir. All right. So it's been a long road, but we finally gotten to question number 5, all right? So, question number 5 is on health care. And I'm sure we're going to get some interesting answers here. All right, so I'll go ahead and ask the question to Mr. Schilling. And you know what? How about we do 2 minutes for each answer? All right? So we'll do 2 minutes for each answer, and we'll still stick with 1 minute for rebuttals. So since it's the last question of the night, so let me ask the question. Given the complexities of the federal and state healthcare reforms, what are some of the key issues and measures that you support? What measures are you against, and what are your alternatives?
Very good. First, we start with the good. A couple of things that I like. Pre-existing condition clause, which allows a patient to carry over, you know, if you lose your job or you move jobs, you have a pre-existing condition, you can have that coverage. Since 50% of the American college kids coming out of college today can't find work, I think it's a really good idea we have them on mom and dad's plan until at least 26 years old. You know, that's the good things. The things we've got to fix, you know, my opponent says we've got to move on. Well, let me tell you about what she means by move on. There's the Independent Payment Advisory Board that's in there, and that's the folks that are the unelected bureaucrats that are going to dictate whether you get the health care you need. They're there to ration health care. The medical device tax that will cost America around 43,000 jobs. Another incentive that my opponent pushes for to ship more American jobs overseas. Look, we've got Cook Medical Group here in our district. Mr. Cook invented the heart stent, wanted to build one facility each and every year. Well, guess what? Because of the medical device tax, it actually equals out to about 10% of their money. They put it all on hold. That's wrong. We've got to get to the point to where we're talking about health care.